My parents told me that my only job was to work and fund my sister's lazy lifestyle. They told me to leave if I didn't like it. So I did. And I took the keys to their entire life with me. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. My temples were pounding. It was a migraine, the third one this month, crawling up my neck and threatening to settle behind my right eye like a hot poker. I was in the middle of a complex reconciliation for my actual job, the one that paid my salary, when my mother, Karen, rapped sharply on my bedroom-turned office door. "Nicola, dinner," she yelled, as if I were a teenager and not a 29-year-old accountant. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. Coming. I saved my work, the numbers blurring, and padded downstairs. The smell of cheap frozen pizza hit me. My sister, Olivia, or Liv as she insisted, was sprawled on the couch, phone held high, snapping selfies. At the dinner table, my father, David, was already complaining. "These invoices are a mess, Nicola. Mrs. Henderson is claiming we overcharged her." "I'll look at it after dinner, Dad," I said, my voice flat. I was the unpaid business manager for their landscaping company, a volunteer role that consumed over 20 hours of my week. "And Liv," my mother cooed, sliding 2 slices of pizza onto her plate. "That gallery owner you emailed. Did he write back, honey?" "Not yet," Liv mumbled, not looking up from her phone. "Art takes time, Mom." I finally snapped. The migraine, the endless work, the blatant favoritism, it all boiled over. "Speaking of time," I said, my voice quiet but sharp, "Liv, don't you think it's time you got a part-time job? To help out? Even 10 hours a week would cover your art supplies." The table went silent. Liv's jaw dropped in exaggerated offense. My father glared at me. My mother set her fork down with a clink. "Nicola, we don't talk like that. Liv's artistic temperament is her contribution. It's a stressful, creative field." "She's 25 and has no clients," I shot back, rubbing my temple. "I pay for my job, I work for your job, and I still top off the household bills. What does she do?" My father's face darkened. He pointed his fork at me. "Your sister is sensitive. You are not. You work while your sister enjoys. That is the arrangement. Don't like it? Leave." The words hung in the air, cold and absolute. Leave. After everything I did. A strange, icy calm washed over me, pushing the migraine to the background. "Okay," I said, meeting his gaze. "I will." The betrayal was so sudden, so final, it felt sharper than any knife. The dinner ended in stony silence. I cleared my plate, went upstairs, and locked my door. The house I had worked so hard to keep stable suddenly felt like a prison. My own family had just told me I was nothing more than a machine for labor and money. I sat at my desk, the glow of my monitors illuminating my face. The anger was there, hot and sharp, but beneath it was a profound, echoing sadness. I had poured my life into them. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother: "You really upset your sister. Apologize to her." I stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new browser tab and started looking at one-bedroom apartments. The next morning, I was downstairs before anyone else, making coffee as if nothing had happened. Liv drifted in around 10 a.m., wrapped in a silk robe I was pretty sure I had paid for with our last household Costco run. "Morning, Nick," she said, her voice a little too bright, a little too strained. She was waiting for the apology my mother had demanded. "Morning, Liv," I said, pouring coffee into my travel mug. "I have to run to the office." This was a lie. My job was fully remote, but I had just scheduled a tour for a new apartment complex across town. "Oh," she said, pouting. "Well, while you're out, can you pick up some more of that organic vanilla bean yogurt? Mom forgot." "I'm not going to the store," I said, walking to the door. "But—" "I'm not your errand girl, Liv. I'm late." She watched me go, her expression shifting from confusion to her signature petulance. It was a small act of defiance, but it felt good. As I drove away, my phone rang. It was my father. "Nicola, where are you? The payroll report is due by 5 p.m., he barked. "I'll get to it when I get to it, Dad," I said, and hung up before he could reply. I felt a small, dark spark ignite within me. They had all forgotten one crucial thing, one tiny detail about our arrangement, and I was about to remind them. My parents' business, David's Gardenscapes, was my father's pride and my mother's vanity project. They loved the idea of owning a business, of telling friends at barbecues that they were entrepreneurs. They were less fond of the actual work, the numbers, the taxes, the legal compliance. That's where I came in. 5 years ago, during a bad season, they were on the brink of losing the house. Their books were a disaster, a shoebox full of crumpled gas receipts and uncashed checks. I was just starting my first junior accountant job, but I spent a sleepless month rebuilding their finances from scratch. I digitized everything. I set them up on professional accounting software, created a client invoicing portal, and negotiated with their suppliers. I saved them, and in doing so, I had accidentally created my second, unpaid, and unthanked job. My mother, Karen, was the true antagonist. My father was gruff and lazy, but my mother was the one who actively manipulated the family dynamic. She was the one who framed Liv as a sensitive artist and me as the capable workhorse. It was her voice that cooed, "Oh, Nicola won't mind, she's so good with money," which was code for Nicola will pay for it. She was a woman who was obsessed with appearances. She needed to look like the mother of a successful artist and the wife of a successful businessman. My steady, boring, remote job as an accountant was an embarrassment to her, even as my salary and skills kept her fantasy afloat. My sister Liv was just a product of this. She was a hollow, selfish person because my mother had raised her to be one. Liv truly believed she was a special, creative soul who was above menial tasks like getting a job or paying her own phone bill. The more I sacrificed, the more was demanded. I had given up vacations, postponed saving for my own down payment, and put my social life on hold, all to manage their crumbling empire. And for what? To be told to leave if I didn't like it. The turning point was that cold, clear okay. I had agreed to leave, and as I toured a clean, quiet apartment with a secure entrance and a gym, I realized I wasn't just leaving. I was escaping. I signed the lease that afternoon. My move-in date was in 2 weeks, on the 1st of the month. The clever trap, the leverage I held, was simple. It wasn't a lease in my name. It was something far more intricate. It was the entire operational infrastructure of David's Gardenscapes. I was the business in every way that mattered. My father knew how to mow a lawn and plant a shrub. My mother knew how to schmooze a potential client. Neither of them knew how to run the software that managed their client schedules, the portal that processed their credit card payments, or the bank account that held their payroll. And they definitely didn't know the passwords. I went home and got to work, but this time I wasn't working for them, I was working for me. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. During the day, I performed my real job. In the evenings, I began my investigation, which was really a meticulous project of professional extraction. I wasn't going to sabotage them. I wasn't cruel. I was just resigning. I created the turnover package. First, I exported every single financial report from the last 5 years. I printed every outstanding invoice, every paid bill, and every client contract. I compiled a detailed list of all their quarterly tax filing requirements. Then the most important part. I logged into every single system, the bank, the accounting software, the scheduling app, the web host, and I changed the passwords. I reset every single one to a unique 16-character randomized string of letters, numbers, and symbols, and I printed each new password, along with its corresponding URL, on a single, neat sheet of paper. The stack of paper grew to be over 500 pages. It was a complete, overwhelmingly detailed, and utterly baffling to a layman record of their entire business. It was everything they needed. and I knew it would be completely useless to them. I started packing my personal items into boxes, labeling them neatly, and stacking them in my room. My family, incredibly, didn't seem to notice. Or rather, they chose not to. They were so wrapped in their own arrogance, so certain of my compliance, that they must have assumed it was some kind of elaborate, immature bluff. "What's with the boxes, Nick?" Liv asked one afternoon, filing her nails on the sofa. "Spring cleaning." "I'm moving, Liv," I said, taping a box shut. "Like you all told me to." "Oh, right," she scoffed. "You're so dramatic, you'll be back in a week tops. Where would you even go?" I just smiled. "You'll see." The first of the month arrived. I had hired movers for 9 a.m. I was packed and ready when they arrived. My parents and Liv stood in the hallway in their bathrobes, their faces a mask of pure, stunned confusion as two large men started carrying my desk and my bed out the front door. "Nicola, what is the meaning of this?" my mother shrieked, finally realizing it wasn't a joke. "I'm leaving," I said calmly, signing the mover's tablet. "Just like you told me to." "You can't do this, my father bellowed. "What about the invoices? What about payroll?" "Don't worry, Dad," I said, walking to my old desk. I picked up the massive 5-pound stack of paper, the turnover package. "It's all right here. Everything you need to run your own business. All your financials, all your clients, all your passwords, it's all there." I placed the stack on the desk with a heavy thud. My father's face went from red to pale. He stared at the stack of paper as if it were a bomb. He didn't know how to turn on a computer without me, let alone log into a bank portal. You're joking," he stammered. "I'm not," I said. I picked up my purse and my laptop bag. "I'm not your accountant anymore, or your bookkeeper, or your business manager. I'm just your daughter. And I'm leaving." I walked out the front door, leaving them standing there, staring at the physical manifestation of all the work I had done, and all the work they were now responsible for. My new apartment was glorious. It was small, but it was quiet. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without a 10 p.m. text from my father asking about a receipt. I bought a new orchid for my windowsill and drank coffee in peace. I had blocked their numbers. After a week of silence, the voicemails started. They began as angry and demanding, then shifted to manipulative and pleading. "Nicola, this is ridiculous," my father's voice boomed. "You've made your point. Now come home and fix this. The bank login you gave me is gobbledygook." "Honey, it's Mom," my mother's voice crooned 2 days later. "Liv misses you terribly. We all do. This whole thing, it's just a misunderstanding. Why don't you come over for dinner and we can sort out the computer? I mean, sort everything out." Then the text messages from Liv began, a barrage of vitriol. "You've ruined us. Dad is yelling all the time. This is your fault." I ignored it all. I was building my own case, a case for my own life. I started therapy. I reconnected with old friends I had been too busy to see. The real escalation happened 2 weeks after I left. I received a certified letter. It was from David's Gardenscapes, formally threatening legal action if I did not return company property and restore access to financial systems. They had hired a lawyer. It was a poorly executed, blustering letter that had my mother's flair for the dramatic all over it. They were trying to regain control. I hired my own lawyer for a 1-hour consultation. She read their letter, listened to my story, and laughed. "You were an unpaid, at-will volunteer," she said. "You didn't sabotage anything. In fact, you provided them with a turnover package that was above and beyond. They have no case." She drafted a simple, irrefutable response. It stated that I had resigned my volunteer position and had returned all company data, as requested. It also included a neatly itemized invoice for my actual accounting services for the past 5 years, calculated at a modest industry rate. The total was just over $220,000. The letter concluded, "Ms. My last name considers this matter closed. However, should you wish to pursue legal action, she is fully prepared to countersue for these unpaid wages. We await your reply." The showdown came not from a lawyer, but from a place of pure, unadulterated panic. It was the 14th of the month. Payroll for their small crew was due on the 15th. My phone rang. It was my father calling from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. On the 5th try, I picked up. "What do you want, Dad?" "Nicola, thank goodness." He was breathing heavily, panic lacing every word. "I can't. The bank, I can't make payroll. The men are going to walk if I don't pay them tomorrow. You have to fix this, please." "I can't fix it, Dad," I said, my voice calm. "What do you mean you can't? It's just passwords. Just log in and do it. I don't have time for this," he roared, the panic turning back to his default setting, anger. "I can't log in because I don't work for you," I said, "and I don't know the passwords." "What, you liar, you set them." "I did, and then I wrote them all down in the turnover package. I don't memorize 16-character randomized strings, Dad. I'm an accountant, not a psychic." There was a heavy silence. I could hear my mother start to wail in the background. "He's going to lose the business. We're ruined." "Nicola, please," my father begged, his voice breaking. It was the first time in my life I had ever heard him sound so small. "Just help me. One last time, I'll pay you." That's when I knew I had won. But it wasn't a victory I wanted to savor. "All the information you need is in the package I left on the desk," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "You'll have to call the bank's business support line. You'll have to call the software company. You'll have to do the work, Dad, or you can hire someone. But it won't be me." "But I don't know how." "Then I suggest you learn," I said. "I have to go, goodbye." I hung up the phone. I stood in the middle of my quiet, clean apartment, and for the first time, I felt the crushing weight of my family lift from my shoulders. I had finally, systemically, and peacefully exposed their incompetence. The spell was broken. The downfall was as swift as I had predicted. David's gardenscapes imploded. They bounced payroll. Their crew walked out, and 2 of them filed claims for unpaid wages. They missed their quarterly tax deadlines, triggering an immediate state audit. My father, trying to wing it, had mixed his personal funds with the business account for years, a fact I had carefully and legally untangled and shielded them from. Without me as their firewall, the auditors descended. Within 2 months, they were forced to sell. They sold the company name, the 2 trucks, and all the equipment for pennies on the dollar just to cover the back taxes and legal fees. It wasn't enough. They had to sell the family home, the one I had saved for them 5 years prior, and move into a small, rundown, 2-bedroom apartment. I didn't hear from them for 3 months. Then I got a postcard. It was a cheap, generic thinking of you card. Inside, in my mother's handwriting, it just said, "We're at 142B Millers Creek. Liv got a job at the coffee shop down the street. We'd like to see you, if you'd like to see us." I went. I brought a pot of flowers for their new, tiny balcony. They looked terrible. My father had lost weight, and my mother's hair was gray at the roots. Liv, wearing her new barista uniform, looked exhausted. "Nicola," my mother said, her eyes filling with tears. She actually hugged me. "Thank you for coming." We sat in their cramped living room. Liv made us coffee. It was actually pretty good. We messed up, Nick," my father said, staring at his hands. "We didn't see what was right in front of us. I took you for granted. I'm sorry." Liv nodded. "It's really hard working," she mumbled. And for the first time, I saw her not as a monster, but as a 25-year-old kid who had been terribly failed by her parents. They had been broken, but it was what they needed to see. I didn't get my $220,000. I didn't need it. I had my peace. I was free, I was thriving, and I was finally truly on my own.